Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome, welcome. I hope we are all doing well on this Monday evening at least for me. I'm not sure. I think for me, for Kara, and then Julia, I do not know what time zone you're in, actually.
It must be the same as you because you said 8 and I was like 8 p.m. it is.
Nice, nice. Listen, I've gotten much better at time zone math when I remember to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Required skill.
yeah.
Truly.
I mean, it helps when you have specific friends that you know what their time zone is. Because I used to know Hawaii's like the back of I knew what time it was in Hawaii at all times. But anyways, welcome to my attempt to be productive on a Monday night for the Eras Readathon. I don't think books are getting read for this readathon at this point because I'm the book I'm reading kind of put me into it's not a bad book. I'm just like, I don't want to be reading this, but it's the only book I have that matches this prompt. So
Which prompt?
It's one of the lover prompts. It's the My Heart's Been Borrowed, where you're supposed to read a book with a heart on the cover. And this should be a very easy book for me to read. It's cute, it's fun, but it is not at all what my brain wants right now. Like, this is not the book's. Oh, hey, I could borrow that. I don't want to borrow that right now. I am not in a fifth season place in my life right now, so we're just gonna push that out a little more.
I was not cut out for the 5th season. I barely started it and I was like, I think we need a DNF. I'm not here right now.
Yeah. I tried to read it. The first time I tried to read it via audiobook. And I got about a half hour in after about an hour of listening because I kept having to rewind it because I kept going, I'm missing, I felt like I was missing something. It is a big brain book. I don't usually have a lot of problems with fantasy and a lot of dense information, but N.K. Jemison's writing is just so complex in places, and what she's setting up in that first prologue, I didn't realize how much. I didn't need to worry about at the time, but I was trying to catch all of the details and figure everything out. So I had to sit down and physically read that thing.
Yeah.
That one is you have to be in the right headspace to read it if you're gonna read it, for sure. So and I think about the second when I started reading it and physically I was like, oh, okay, I'm not supposed to be keeping track of everything that's going on in this.
You're like, confusion is expected. That's good.
I'm reading a fantasy book. I remember this. I know how to do this, but it took a minute. But yeah, we're not in we are not in a 5th season space because I want to take my time with that this time around. Anyways, what are y'all reading tonight?
So glad you asked.
Well,
I'm only rereading one of my favorite books, so very excited. Because I'm also still in Lover, and I'm doing a 2019 book. So I am reading The Guinevere Deception. That's
okay.
A masterpiece. That's all I have to say. I have a lot of tabs in it, and I'm adding more. So
very good book. I knew I was not going to get out of it what I wanted, so I don't think I continued the series.
I never read book 3, so I feel you.
Also very weird about so my favorite version of the Arthurian retellings it's based off of one's based off of a Tennyson, I think it's Tennyson's poem where you go through the whole Lancelot saga and then Arthur and Guinevere kind of find themselves back at the beginning with each other. And I keep looking for that book, but no one ever wants to write that book.
Yeah. One of the things I loved about the Guinevere Deception, I really want more retellings to do this, where the main character, and I don't think this is a spoiler because it's literally the premise in the beginning of the book, but it's the main character. What?
I said, is it literally the title?
It's I want more retellings to be set up this way where you're following the female main character of the retelling, but actually she's not. I love that.
And I do need to finish the series because I am 97% sure that I know who she actually is if we're sitting down with the Arthurian legend. I'm like, oh, this checks off, this checks off, this checks off. We just need to get an old man in a cave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so many. Oh, no, wait a minute. I'm remembering things about the book. Yeah, no, it has to be. I'm 100% sure I know who it is now.
Well, read it. Read it and find out.
Read it because I really did like Kristen White's take on, and I did like the fact that like they were platonic buddies. That was cute. So
I love everything about it. So
it is
unbiased. Or I'm very biased, rather.
It's very well written for like I was that weird. I grew up in a conservative Christian household. We did a lot of King Arthur. We did a lot of Tolkien. All of that kind of like if it's involved in like British, Norse, kind of that kind of mythology or Greek mythology, we knew that.
Mm-hmm.
So like I loved those stories. What are you picking up today, Kara?
I am currently reading Wildflower Season by Michelle Major. This is for the book that has a romance in it, I think is the prompt I'm doing for this. And I'm actually listening to it on audio because I've been knitting to hurry up and finish a Christmas present. So I have like half of it here and it is adorable if I do say so myself. It's a tiny little bell. So my mom, like when she was a kid, she got like gifted to her from one of her teachers this like little brooch that's made out of two knitted Christmas bells, and it's adorable. And it's like one of her favorite things to wear around the holidays. And she like not so subtly hinted that she would like another one in another color. So I like found a pattern and I already have the first bell done. And I'm going to be working on that. And I like already have the actual bells and everything. Like I'm going to pick that up at Michael's at some point. So luckily it's like super fast to do, but I think it's pretty cute if I do say so myself. It also looks adorable as a cat hat.
What doesn't though? What doesn't
I know.
It's like
poor Petey was like right there. And I just like, I know. And his face was like, why do you hurt me, mother?
But it does kind of have like a top hat sort of flair to it.
It does.
Just make it a little bit bigger next time and then put it on his head.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll love to eventually shred it with his claws.
Yes.
So beautiful. I am doing, so here's the goal. I have a list of 6 things that I need to do, including eat dinner tonight. Mm-hmm. I've already completed 2 of them. If I complete all of these things, I can put the audiobook on and I can play Baldur's Gate.
Oh.
That's the goal. That is the goal.
That's a great goal.
Because my brilliant plan to like start a 3rd game so that I could play through everything and I'll be able to quit when I want to, like very easily without feeling like I need to continue on to see what happens next. That brilliant plan went to the wayside when I realized I'd skipped an entire section of the game. So anyways, that I'm not going to be able to go back to, I don't believe, in my first game that I started. So, which technically is it's very complicated because my first game is a multiplayer game with my brother, but I can only play that every so often. Anyways, the goal is to get those things done. And then once those are done, I can do whatever I want to do with the rest of my evening while listening to my audiobook. I may listen to my audiobook with some of the other stuff. Oh, I don't need the homebrew rules for the D&D game that we are not currently playing. Get rid of that. So anyways, let's see. Who do we have in the comments? Tell me what y'all are reading. Hello, Julie. Hello, Cool Gamer. Oh, that's you too. Hey, Amal. Amal is currently listening or still listening to Almost Gone for the Evermore Unreliable Narrator prompt. That reminds me, I need to figure out the winner for the giveaway for the Eras Readathon t-shirt.
That reminds me, let me show you guys the tote bag I got.
Oh, yeah? Okay, show me the tote bag.
Love a good tote bag.
Tote bags are fantastic. There's a reason that I have them in the Redbubble store.
Oh.
I love it!
That is so cool.
That way no one in the bookstore trusts me, you know? Gotta
Oh
keep
my
them on
god,
their
that's
toes.
hilarious. We love it. We love it. Hello, Ro. How are you? Julie is currently reading Luminaries and Winter of the Witch if she can stay awake. You know what? Sometimes, I'm not even gonna go in a whole spiel on how sometimes you need rest is productive. If that's what you need right now, rest is productive.
It is.
Winter of the Witch. Ugh, I love the Winter Night trilogy so much.
I need to start that series. I really want to finish that series. I started it, and then I didn't.
Well, I'm kind of in the same boat. So I read The Bear and the Nightingale, and then I think a year later I read The Girl in the Tower.
Girl in the Tower.
And then I keep putting off Winter of the Witch because I don't want the series to be done. Like I want to know I can still enjoy it whenever I feel like it. Yeah. So it just continues to languish on my TBR.
I feel like I need to reread The Bear and the Nightingale, but I really liked the things that it was saying about the way Christianity kind of came in and took over things, and the complexities of Christianity existing with all of these other religions, and how it gave such a nuanced kind of look at the different.
I did not feel like it was nuanced. It felt like every other book I've read that does that, which is important to talk about, but like Vasya just felt like paint by numbers, not like other girls. I'm too good.
I knew that was going to be your complaint, Kara.
She's exhausting. It's like, oh my god, just go in the forest and shut up about it. Like, I'm not a Winter Night girl.
So like, I think there are a couple of things, because it's hard when you have something that is historical. And you have someone who is bucking against the trends as much as Vasya is, I think, because I don't think like there were women who did.
Right.
But
and I did
you
read the second book.
Be careful about it, because it does start to feel a little anachronistic if you're not careful.
Right. And it just like there are ways to write characters like that don't make me feel like the author just doesn't like women. And like I've read like Catherine Arden's middle grade series is fantastic. And like there's two main female characters who are both amazing, and their friendship is so good. So like I know that Catherine Arden can write like women who don't hate other women. I think like also I probably would have gotten along with it better if I haven't by this point read a lot of like historical fantasies that have that kind of main character. I think like I have a lower tolerance for that than I used to, because I've seen it so much. But I know a lot of people.
If you hadn't been through all of Robin Hobb.
I had like not even all of Robin Hobb. I've only been through 6 of Robin Hobb's books, and it's exhausting.
You're like,
I am going to finish Assassin's Quest by the end of the year if it kills me. Because I need to finish this book so I can move on with my life.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I still kind of feel like I'm being punked. Like
I mean, you're right. There are things that I like. So here's the thing. I think that for the time that Robin Hobb was writing in, it is she was either right along with what other authors who were doing a good job writing women were doing, or she is right along with whatever wave of feminism was going on then.
Yeah.
Like it's right in line with that. However, this is 30 years later, so it really does like hit differently for us. Especially when you sit down and there are male authors that I could name that have done a better job, in my opinion, of
I agree
women.
I agree,
especially when you look at it specifically. And this is still like, I'm not like trashing this series, because of the 2 series of hers that I've read, it's still my favorite of the 2, and I actually genuinely enjoyed everything but one single plot line that I figured out how it's going to end. Fuck you, Robin Hobb. But like, especially when you sit down and you look at the Farseer trilogy and how the women are depicted in that one, I think that she did a much better job of having various women depicted, despite my like absolute loathing of what happened with What's-Her-Face's storyline.
Yeah.
It's like better job with that. But
part of it too is that like you were saying, for the time she was writing, it's not unusual, but nobody gave me that impression about the books before I read them. Everybody, I kind of had the feeling that like, oh, they're so good, they're so feminist, they really hold up. And I read them, I'm like, what is this nonsense? Like, I don't get it. Like, she's one of the other authors where it's like, I read her books and I'm like, Robin Hobb, do you have any friends who are women? Like, please. It's just baffling to me.
No. I totally understand all of the critiques, and I have some similar critiques, especially when it comes to the live ship traders, because I'm just so pissy about that.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't read any Robin Hobb.
I was going to say, have you been through the torture?
I've been the 5th. I haven't read any Robin Hobb.
Literally every live show we've been on together, Margaret, we end up bitching about Robin Hobb.
Because you always bring up the not like other girls. No,
she's like the poster child for it. So
yeah, going back to like the Winter of the Witch trilogy, my one qualm with that series was that like it is a little weird that she is a child and he is an immortal being.
Yeah. I feel
like I just accept that with fantasy, but that is a good point. Like, other thing, okay, I remembered the other thing that like frustrated me about the books, where it's like, yes, I see that you're trying to do commentary, but the way that she wrote the like creepy priest guy, I'm like, it sort of feels like you're like, well, what do you expect when they're repressed? And I'm like, like, you are responsible for your actions. Like, you do not get to be like, this is why like celibate clergy is actually the problem. I'm like, no, like rape culture and toxic masculinity is the problem.
Celibate clergy that do not commit sexual
assault. And like I think that was one of the things that didn't feel as like well thought out to me, because I'm like the like, I don't think he's trying to say that, but the vibe that I got,
I think the real kind of like through line there is just that historically, when you have people who get that kind of power in that kind of setting, you do see a lot of, especially at the time period, it was kind of accepted that, especially as they got really high up, there would be things that were happening behind the scenes that they were doing.
Oh, like, for sure. Like I'm not like claiming that it didn't happen. She was being inaccurate. I just think like, the commentary didn't feel super thoughtful. And also, like, one of my friends was telling me, who like her family background is like Eastern Orthodox. She's like, well, actually, like, it doesn't even really make sense, because like there's, I guess, 2 tracks for like the priesthood in Eastern Orthodox, and like you don't actually have to be celibate to be a priest.
That makes sense.
So like, I don't know, that was another.
Well, you chose wrong, dum. Clearly, you don't want to be celibate.
Okay, I have to. Ro has an amazing comment, because I agree. It says, I feel like some fantasy readers only read Robin Hobb because she's popular, but don't read other female authors. I think I've told Margaret, I think I've told you this before. My hot take is like, one of the reasons Robin Hobb is so popular is that a lot of the issues I have with her books feel like they're written by a specific kind of male fantasy author. Like, it's very male gazy for books being written by a woman. So I agree, Ro. I think like that's like, people kind of pat themselves on the back. I read women in fantasy, and it's like, yeah, but if it's only her, I don't know.
My main critique of her is that there's stuff that happens in her books, like Althea's plotline. If Terry Goodkind had written that plotline, we'd be dragging him.
Yeah.
So, however, she was also publishing opposite Terry Goodkind, and as much as I loved his writing, there are some things in there that are, looking back, questionable.
Right. And it's like, yeah, we're not asking for like perfection. It's just we didn't ask for what we got either. Have you okay, so if you're that far into the last Farseer trilogy book, that one of the things that I like could not get past, I thought was like hilarious and not supposed to be, is like how every woman in that book is desperate to bang Fitz, when it's like, we are told over and over that he's like gross and dirty and smells like sheep, because he's like, and it's like, this feels like, that is one of the parts where I'm like, this feels to me like it was ghost written by a very particular kind of male fantasy author. Like, I just can't. Anyway.
Oh my God,
in my
that's so
defense,
funny.
because I haven't read the book, but what is his physical description? Like, what does he look like? Because if I saw Henry Cavill and he was dirty and smelling like shit, I would not care.
I don't think he's like that.
He's not looking. He's a mediocre looking dude, from what I understand, and he also at this point has a big ass scar across his face.
Well, okay, that's not a. That could be interesting, but yeah, the like
beard.
I can't emphasize enough to you, Julia, how much we are given to understand that he does not bathe. Like he's just the scruffy little sheep herder, and I know that that's like understandable, but then I'm like, why would you then write like, and it's like literally he cannot have a conversation with any woman without her being desperate to sleep with him. Oh, that's one of the reasons I haven't tried that book. I'm like, I don't think I could.
No, so here's the thing, like Patrick Rothfuss is trying to write a very specific type of fantasy, and he does it very well. Kavoth has more charm and suave in his pinky finger than Fitz has as an entire person, and also more brains.
Yeah, that helps.
In Fitz's defense, he's like 22 at this point, I think. His frontal lobe is not fully developed.
Well, it's
like when I read the first Mistborn book, which actually has not been my favorite of Brandon Sanderson's books, but like when I read the first one, like a lot of people were like, Elend is such a like annoying character. He's like such a like an archetype, and I'm like, you are right. I know. I'm like, you're right about everything, and yet I love him. Like, I really like that character archetype, so I'm like, you can be basic. I don't really care.
I liked Elend. He was like he was flawed and imperfect, but I loved him. I
love like smart but physically wimpy boys. Like, in fantasy.
Oh my God.
I think it's so funny.
What is his name? What is his name? The eunuch.
Oh, in which one?
In Mistborn. He's like my favorite character. It's right there, but I love him as a character.
Is he in the first book too? Because I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I really liked him. I really liked him.
Yeah. He is the one reason because so Brandon Sanderson does something in the final book that if it had been I won't spoil it, but if it had been my first Brandon Sanderson books, I would have sworn off of him forever because because of this character. What the fuck? This is going to drive me absolutely nuts. Sazed.
Oh yes, I love him.
Okay. Because of what is done with Sazed and the twist that happens there, it is the only reason I did not absolutely hate that book. I was just like, okay, I see what you were doing. I appreciate it. This was so well done. I can't like. And at that point, I'd read the Reckoners first, and I absolutely loved them. So, which is another one that you have to get through that first, like the first 3 chapters, I think, and then it gets much better.
Yeah. Do we want to do a sprint, Margaret?
We do. I actually just set the timer.
Perfect.
Hold on. I may because I know we've got some time stuff going. We're gonna do a shorter. Jesus, Jiminy Christmas. Okay, we're gonna do a shorter sprint for this one, and then we'll come back for a few minutes, and then we will do a little bit longer sprint after. All right.
Perfect.
Okay. That'll give me time to finish up some of the stuff that I need to do. Hey, Carissa, welcome. Yeah, I mean, it's a good series. I like the second one better, but
I'm excited to continue. It's been a while since I read that book, but
yeah. I think there's some interesting things, and we can talk about that a little bit more, but let us go in 3, 1, let's go. Oh. Sorry about that. We'll get rid of the music. pro tip, set your timer for a few minutes before you're supposed to be back and not right when the timer goes off. Okay. Oh, right. Anyways, how did we do? I got dinner started. So
solid. I finished my other little bells.
Yay!
Look, they're gonna be so cute.
They're so cute.
I love. Oh, do they have a cable stitch on them?
No, they don't. It's actually just like the roll of the bottom part that looks like that. So I love doing cables though. Yeah, it was good, and I am about halfway through my book. I'm actually really liking it, and the only reason I'm a little surprised is because there are like tropes about the romance that I wasn't sure how I would get on with, but there's enough other stuff I like that, and I really like the writing as well. Also, like the couple just had like a cute little scene on like a fishing boat or whatever, and there were like multiple things that the guy did where I was like, okay, maybe you can stay, because like the woman is like really excited that she pulls in this like giant fish, and then she's like watching it like flop around on the deck, and she's like, I kind of want to throw it back. And he immediately is like, okay, and like he doesn't give her a hard time about it, and he like helps her do it. And then she's like, can I drive the boat for a while? And he's like, yes. And he like shows her how to do it, and it's like, okay, I love your lack of toxic masculinity.
Oh, we love that. Remind me again, what book are you reading? Because that did not stick in my brain.
Yeah, where's the cover? I just had it. Okay. It's Wildflower Season by Michelle Moran. I think of these as like adult coming of age books because I hate the label chick lit, but that's like what it is.
I don't know. I think that like
women's fiction.
The only I understand some of the criticism, but I also think that like the idea that chick lit is a bad title is kind of like, I don't know. I don't like it.
I can see that too. I think because like chick is such a diminutive way of saying like girl or woman. I think that's what, because like women's fiction, I don't know. I guess like the thing that bothers me about like all the labels that tie this to like, it's like girl books. I think the thing that bothers me is that it's like, okay, so any book that has a female main character who is an adult and getting her life together and also maybe finding love, but that's not the only thing that happens. Like basically if women can be happy, that's like a girl book.
Like, I feel like that's like that like plot covers multiple different genres.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when I think of chick lit, I think of something very different than like romance. But you can also have that plot in a romance. You can also have that plot in just straight up contemporary.
And literary fiction, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I know that like I'm not super involved in like the romance book community. I am just like tangentially aware of some of the discussions going on. And so I get the frustration with like things being labeled romance that like aren't technically. But the thing that bothers me a little bit is that it seems like some of the like big romance readers are like offended that like women's fiction is like not just like, oh, it makes it hard to find like a romance genre book, but it's like, ew, no, we're better than that. Which I don't love, but
I've seen a couple of those. Yeah, I understand that, but you know, I'm not friends with
it's like it's basically if people review like a romance or a contemporary that has like a strong romance in it, and they're like, yeah, I didn't like it because it was like more about like the character development and coming of age, and there was like just a romance subplot, and I'm like, awesome, sign me up. Like
that's so funny.
Yeah.
It is.
I don't know. I think there are a lot of discussions that can be had about romance and how much of the romance needs to be like, how is the romance the main plot? Like that's the main question there. And how much are you allowed to have other plot? And I think some people do get a little bit like, if it has any other plot, it can't be romance. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. It's a fine line.
Yeah. Like I think like a good example is like The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. That's something that I would categorize as a romance. It is a heavier romance, but that still is like that has equal parts of the plot with all of the other stuff going on in her life. And like, I think if you say, hey, you shouldn't have like it doesn't overtake the romance part of the plot. Like there's a place where the romance takes a little bit of a break, but it also like is so intrinsically like you can't separate out the romance.
Yeah.
Like you could have the same plot, but it is a fundamentally different book if you separate out the romance from her journey in the other plots that are happening.
Yeah. And also just like in terms of personal preference, I find a romance so much more satisfying when I feel like there has been equal attention to like the individual character development. Like
to like her
I
life.
like that. Yeah. What's that?
To like her to her life outside of the romance.
Yeah, and so like that's one of the big reasons I'm really enjoying this one is because it's like, yes, there is a significant romance element. Like we know who the couple is. There's like a lot of time spent on that, but also there's a lot of time spent on like the main female character like getting her life together after her like asshole husband like took everything in the divorce, and she's like starting up this like bed and breakfast type thing, and she's like getting all these other women on board to be like this little entrepreneur. I love it. It's like it's like women like female friendship plus like women owned businesses, and I'm like, I love it here. Yeah.
Have you read any Olivia Dade? Speaking of, someone just mentioned it in the comments. I don't know all that much about. Spoiler alert, I think that's the main focus of the plot. But if
I actually just read it recently and I loved it.
I was going to say, all the feels very much has that vibe where you're getting equal amounts of romance and then the characters working on themselves. I haven't read Shipwrecked yet, but I loved spoiler alert. Elena has joined us, taking a shower and then reading my books for the next sprint. Hey, Brianna! Not really reading tonight, watching football and relaxing. Today was a crap day at work. Ew, would you like me to come and beat up your coworkers for you? I have a black belt. I just need a plane ticket. I don't have any plans tomorrow. This is very funny because I'm the least confrontational person that you know. When I'm not in a car. Anyways. I might do a little yelling at the other drivers, but like if I actually have to sit down and talk to them, it's like, okay, I'll be nice and polite.
Yeah, right, exactly. Also, you're insulated in your car.
Yeah, so. I have so much repressed rage because I don't handle conflict well face to face because I was not raised to handle conflict well face to face. So, hey Max, welcome. Anyways, how did you do, by the way, Julia?
Good. I read 2 chapters and
I'm happy.
I'm just happy. See, the best thing about this book is that I love every single character. So no matter what's going on, I win. Because I'm like, great, Arthur's here. Cool. Mordred's here. Oh, a Guinevere chapter. I love it. Yeah.
They're all such good characters. Also, I love what I think is going to be her take on Lancelot. Like,
yes.
Actually, my problem child is in Miami, so it's closer for you to get there than me. Oh, God. I mean, it probably would take me less time to fly to you than it would to take me to drive to Miami. It's a 7-hour drive. So, anyways, I'm smack dab in like the middle of the state, so it takes me forever to get out of the state and forever to go south or get anywhere going south.
Yeah.
Sarah has joined us. I'm reading Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade. Julie has also turned on the football game. Max has been in a car with Margaret and can confirm.
Okay, good to know.
I wouldn't be rude to you face to face, but I most certainly, if you try to, like, we were in the car when we were in Utah. Somebody like yelled at me for pulling in where it looked like they were. And like he said some nasty stuff, so I flipped him off. And he had more to say about it, but I was just like, oh well, I don't care.
I'm always just like, yes, I'm mad, but I'm not mad enough to risk death by road rage. Like I just don't. It's not worth it to me. But
I'm just like, whatever. I'm also very petty. Like I had somebody honk at me the minute a light turned green. I was like, oh, I'm taking my time.
Oh yeah. I'm more petty than I am angry sometimes when I'm driving. And actually, sometimes I have the opposite problem. So, like, my closest story to road rage is that I was driving my cousins around and we were listening to the iconic bop Here We Go Again by Demi Lovato.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm singing, I'm jamming, I love it. And apparently the person who's doing like a left turn opposite me thinks I'm like yelling at them when I'm singing along, and they flipped me off. I was like, oh no, I just love this song. Like, I'm sorry.
I'm just having a good time. Sorry.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Okay, I know we had a couple people that have some stuff real quick that they need to do at 9. So let's do an hour-long sprint. That'll give me time to. Why did I not do this? Thank you. That'll give me time to finish my dinner and potentially eat my dinner as well. Hopefully, while it's still hot. Trying to eat dinner while doing sprints is running sprints is very similar to trying to eat dinner with a toddler, I feel. So, anyways, because like as soon as you get dinner finished, then it's time to be back. But we will go for an hour this time, and I will see y'all back in 60 minutes. 3,
Just
2,
a quick
1.
heads up, I will probably disappear at some point during the sprint because your girl has to wake up early. So
teach me that magic trick someday. All right, and everybody will link down and be linked down in the description box as soon as I get in and finish linking Julia. So, all right, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Back, how did we do on that sprint?
It was good. I have made really good progress on this one today, so I think audio plus knitting was a good choice for this.
Sounds like a good choice.
Yeah, I got like 130 pages left, so going very well.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm really liking it, and I'm glad because the author is one that I like was curious about, and I like had looked at some of the series she had, but like I just wasn't sure how I'd get on with like her writing and everything, but I'm really liking it. So,
and you said it's Wildflower. Was it Wildflower Summer?
Wildflower Season.
Yeah,
is the name of it.
Michelle Major.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm adding it to my want to read list.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. There's like the classic like, okay, obviously this hang up is something you need to get over so that you guys can like have a healthy relationship. But like I accept that. That's like how it always goes. But yeah, it's good.
I mean, there are some things that people get in relationships and they're working through that the entire relationship. I know there's stuff.
Right.
No, that's more like, because when you get into trauma, that makes things even more complicated. But like,
yeah.
I know there are specific actions my father does not take because of things that happened to my mom in the past.
Yeah. So, yeah, and this one, they're definitely, I think the reasons for it are really well set up, and I do think it is trauma in at least one case and kind of both cases. So I do feel like the amount of time it's taking feels realistic. I think like the thing I'm finding a little frustrating about it is that I don't know, the way it's written, it almost feels like, okay, but I thought we were already at like this point of the story and we're not. Even though like recovery is not linear, so that is also realistic. But
especially if you're like putting yourself in a situation where the thing that caused your trauma in the first place could happen, like is a possibility again, even if it's like that person would never do it. That's still like
and that's like exactly what's happening here is that they're both dealing with, even though they don't think it's going to happen, they are still dealing with that possibility. I mean, I think the female lead is, I think, much more, I don't know, she seems farther along on like her character arc. Yeah.
She's a woman. And she probably went to therapy.
And the male character is still very much in his like, I am bad for any woman, I cannot like have what I want, I don't deserve to be happy, and it's like,
God, he needs to get off of Andrew Tate's Twitter.
It's like, I get it, because like he's dealing with,
that sounds like he spent a lot of time having people tell him shit that was not correct.
Yes, and it is, and he has been like blamed for something that wasn't his fault, but that he always felt was his fault too. So it's just sort of like validated that feeling. So it all makes a lot of sense.
That's getting very Red from Get a Life, Chloe Brown vibes, where like mentally he knows that it, like he's like, okay, this is stupid, but then emotionally you're still right back there.
Yeah, and that's definitely what this one is feeling like.
And especially that's something, do we know if it's something that he had like was told to him when he was a child?
No, so it's you find out pretty quickly, so I'll just mention what it is that like he was married before and his wife died in a car accident, which is obviously very traumatic. But on top of that, he blames himself for it, and her family also blamed him for it, I think, because she was going to like another job that she had gotten to like help him out with something. And it's like, that's one of those things, is like intellectually, that's not your fault, but of course you're gonna feel like it is. So
you're still gonna feel it, and especially if you have other people in your life that are actively Like it's really hard when you have people that are actively telling you that this is on you. Like even if you know
exactly.
and it's not, that still can be something that you struggle with.
Yeah, and that's where he's at. And I think he's starting to, like, he's at least like, so he and the other main character, like, they have gotten together at least casually at this point. Like, they're not like officially dating or anything, but I think he's like slowly accepting that he could be happy again, but he's not ready to allow himself to be.
Yeah.
So he's
Probably
like, I can't pursue this anymore. Yeah. So yeah, really he does need some therapy to help him work through that. But
most guys do, and they just won't get it.
Yeah.
My father needs a ton of it, but he's too stubborn to admit. Let's just, even if he admitted he needed it, he would refuse to go. You know, that lovely toxic masculinity.
Yes.
Does.
Yeah. And I do love about the guy in this book, like, well, I was talking about like on the fishing boat and everything, and I do really love that even though he's like a contractor that ends up like working with the main character, and he's got like that very much like strong, like kind of like typical masculinity in that like he does a lot of like building stuff, but he's really like not emotionally like that at all. Like he's clearly like working through some stuff, but at least the stuff he's working through is not like misogyny. So that's nice.
That's at least it's only personal problems,
right? Like
a douchebag.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, okay.
How did your spring go?
I now have dinner. We're just waiting for it to get cool enough that I can eat it. Because
love that bowl. That is so pretty.
Oh yeah. My brother's ex got it from my mom. She loves. I think it was. So, his last two girlfriends had very similar sounding names. So I think it was the one before his current girlfriend. I'm 90% sure. I don't think it is the current one. But, you know, the good news is that the only Karas I know all pronounce it Kara now. I've gotten rid of all the Karas.
Kara's supremacy. I like it.
I'm like, I need y'all to like have a meeting, and like one of y'all is with a C and one of y'all is with a K, and then we just pronounce those two differently. So no more guessing.
Like sometimes, once in a while, I'll come across like an author who has like Kara with a C or a K, and I always stumble because it's like almost everyone I know says like pronounces it like Kara. And I don't, so I don't know like if that is like a rule. I don't know if it's like the default. I mean technically it is my family's fault because like in Italian it should be Cara. But that's not what we did.
Yeah. No, it was very funny because like I second guessed myself one day during D&D, and my brother sent me a message that was like, no, you had it right the first time, and I was like, shoot.
Yeah.
So, but no, growing up, one of my best friends, her younger sister was named Cara, and that's how they pronounced it. But I don't know. I personally have known more Karas than Karas.
Okay, good.
So y'all are winning at least.
Yes, yeah. Well, and also it's partly like, well, like any pronunciation, it's also like a regional or an accent thing, because like friends that I made when I was like in England, like family friends we visited, for example, they all say Cara. So like I guess that is like the English or the British pronunciation. So it's like nobody can agree. We don't know.
Well, obviously, because for Brit that A is going to be an ah sound. They don't have ah.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's go ahead. Oh, Julia had to leave us, by the way. She is linked down below in the description box. let's go ahead and there will be a couple of more sprints, Elena, if you are. We're going to do at least, I think, probably 2 more. The timing will be up to me because this is my channel. So anyways, Say Cloud joined us. Hello, just joined. I'm studying, but I think I'll take a break to read after this sprint. Amal, I got 2 hours and 21 minutes left of torture.
Oh no.
Oh boy. Have you tried, can you speed it up a little bit? Because sometimes that, if there's something that's wrong, it goes away. I'm traveling in 3 days, so I'm just reading for fun at this point. Nice. Except this audiobook. You got to be pretty close to the end of the Luminaries then, Julie. Made it to chapter 33 of the Luminaries.
What are you crocheting?
Yes, what are you crocheting? Asking the correct questions. Sarah Y got 38 pages and had a shower. We love it. And then Vaniel in the Voldemort World by Mercedes Lackey is another smart but wimpy character that I like. Oh, we love that.
I'm gonna have to check that out. That's a good recommendation.
Yeah.
I love my smart wimps.
There are so many ways you can do, especially if you're doing a fantasy world, because you're doing a very different world from what we're all wimps in the modern world. Most of us. But like there's a lot of ways you can do like the very wily, cunning character that is like using their brains rather than their brawn to get by.
Yeah.
So Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I just read that. That has a very like she's outsmarting people character in this whole. It's like Red Queen, but if the main character didn't have powers at all, which you know what I mean, that's not a spoiler.
Yeah. One of the things that I loved about the main character in Mexican Gothic is that she is very like she fights smarter, not harder. Like there's like multiple points where she's like, I am attractive. I can get this man to tell me what I need to know to save my life. And I'm like, you go, girl. Like
use it, woman. Use it.
I love it.
Oh my god, we love that. But yeah, like I love those like Mistborn has a couple of those characters where they're like because they're like the little thief character that is always having to get out of scrapes, and you like those. Julie is working on a blanket, and yes, I think I'm in the last quarter of the book. We love to see it. Abrina Crystal says, "She Who Became the Sun" is another example of brains over brawn, which I think, like, especially if you're looking at a medieval world, how brawny you become is typically up to how well you're able to eat.
Right.
So, like, you had a lot of, like, throughout history, you've had a lot of, like, little guys that have had to deal with a small number of bigger guys that try and whomp them.
Yeah. Well, and I really was it Sword of Kaigan that did this recently, which I also loved. And that one is interesting because it's a very, like, the female main character is very, like, physically strong and good at fighting. But then you see, like, throughout the book, she's realizing, like, oh, there's other ways to be strong, which is, like, very satisfying. But I always appreciate in books where, like, especially a female main character is like fighting or training, I really like when whoever's training her is like, you know, statistically you're going to be smaller than a lot of the people you're fighting, and here's how you use that. Like they don't I don't know, it's like they don't waste time being like
I have an entire book planned around a character that's like that, but like her dad and her mom decided no more kids because it would have killed mom. And she was the only child. And he's like, all right, so you're inheriting my title. You're going to be inheriting the clan. So we're going to teach you how to, we're going to make you into something that these men will respect. Doesn't work. And also I'm going to teach you how to be able to use your opponent against you.
Yes.
Like, I mean, he literally was like, listen, this is the reality that you live in. I'm going to give you every tool that you can, or that I can, to be able to do this job as a woman, knowing what you're up against when it comes to the people that are going to have to be following you and all of that stuff. And of course, it's apparently a retelling of Hamlet somehow. So that didn't happen.
What was she thinking?
I sat down and I was going over this plot and I was just like, this is the plot of my least favorite Shakespeare play. Okay.
I'm a Hamlet apologist, but I absolutely see all the criticism. Like, you're right, and I love it anyway.
So I never was a fan of Shakespeare. I'm never going to be a fan of Shakespeare's tragedies. I can appreciate the writing and like the stuff from them, and I did the monologue that Hamlet does. I did that as a goth. I put on makeup like a goth and went on stage and did that when we were doing Shakespeare at my co-op. However, if you are a theater student, you're going to end up studying that play.
Yes.
My very first class that I did, we had to we had to do like 4 different projects on Hamlet, which meant I had to read that thing 4 different times. So not only did I not like it, but I had to read it so many times that I'm just like, if I never read this again.
Yeah.
I love retellings of it, though. It's very funny. Like, one of my favorite retellings of a Shakespeare play is A Wounded Name. Very dark, very fucked up. But it's so gorgeous. And I'm okay with it because of how she spun it.
Yeah. There are stories that, like, I love as retellings because I love, like, the core of what the story is. And I just don't like the way it was done originally. So I feel it.
Well, and that's not hard considering how many of those stories were kind of like, there's misogyny in them and there's other forms of bigotry in them. And those you can turn them on their heads. I'm trying to find... Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, or like even kind of taking like the intention behind some. So like Othello does deal with like racism and anti-Blackness, but the way it's done is obviously not how we would do it today. So I like when retellings sort of like take out, it's like how Pride by Ibi Zoboi, I think, is such a smart Pride and Prejudice retelling, because like if Pride and Prejudice were written today, it would be about gentrification, you know? And I think that's so smart. Like that kind of class commentary is like directly connected to the original and it's just like in a different context. So yeah, I think that's really impressive when authors do that.
Yeah. That's that. I really appreciated when she did Pride. I know there are a lot of Pride and Prejudice lovers that don't, but I loved how she modernized it. I loved how she, especially like the Lydia plot line, because not only was that a good way to modernize that plot line in similar in a way to like the Lizzie Bennet Diaries did, but it also was a way that was very prescient and it's not, the word's not relatable, but like important to the experiences of girls like at that age, like that. Like you and I would read Pride and Prejudice and go, "Oh yeah, obviously Wickham is a predator," but like I don't think it hits the same if you're talking to a younger audience as often. Like there are going to be kids that got it, like I got it as a kid, but it puts it into perspective. It puts it into perspective for modern kids and shows them something through it that can be applicable to their own lives and gives them something to watch out for. So, I loved that. It's such a good book.
I remember like a lot of the reviews I was hearing, they were like, oh, like if you love Pride and Prejudice, you probably won't like this one. And it's like, I did not have that experience. Like it is a very different basic setup in a lot of ways, but like I care more about like, did you keep the things that mattered about the original story? Like you can change setting, you can change time period, like you can change so much, but if you still hold on to like the things that make that story work, or that like people who enjoy the story, like, it's like, then I'm gonna go along with it, you know? It's like you can change a lot, but if you convince me that you know the original and why people still read it, then like that's I think what's more important.
Or you're telling me your favorite part of why that story is important to you. Like I think you look at the different Pride and Prejudice movies that have been out there, and it's very funny to see how people will be split, because some of them you'll like, they each are focusing on a different thing when it comes to that story. Like, and you know what? The 2005 Pride and Prejudice may not be my favorite because I want the whole thing. I want the whole story.
Yes.
I was raised on the BBC version with Colin
I
Firth.
was too. I was too.
If Mr. Darcy isn't shirtless and wet in one scene, it's the wrong version.
If there's not Colin Firth, I'm not going.
But I got what the director was trying to highlight, and it does have one thing that I absolutely loved that the original, like, or the BBC version doesn't have, which is it gives more nuance to the relationship between Mr. and Mrs. Bennet.
That's true.
That is the one thing, is that there are parts there where you can see that, yes, she's silly, and I think they really drove home the fact that it's not just that, like, she's silly, it's that she is aware of what happens to her daughters if her children die, and it took that seriously. And then you also have the fact that, like, there were moments you can see, and part of that is just the actors, like Donald Sutherland and the woman, like, obviously their chemistry was great. You can see why they got married in the first place. You know?
Yeah. Well, and that's how I feel about the black and white one that has Laurence Olivier and Greer Garson in it, which, like, is way shorter, and they changed so much, and they moved the time period because they wanted to reuse the Gone with the Wind costume. So, like,
I know that's the random one that's in, like, the Civil War.
It looks like it is, but yeah, it's so weird. If you want a faithful adaptation, that is not what you're gonna get. Yeah. But there are pieces of it, like, I still love it. I have, like, a fondness for it, just in general. But also, like, that's one of the things I like, is that the relationship between Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, while not being super true to the book, it's just more fun. Like, it's more playful, and there's more, like, enjoyment in each other's company and, like, respect there.
She's not as much, like, it's one of those things that, like, I understand why the BBC version kind of made her a caricature a little bit, but that was a very real concern, especially for a woman with
and that's why, like, the older I get, the more I dislike her dad, Lizzie's dad, because, like, I think when I was first, like, reading and watching it when I was much younger, I think I was like, oh yeah, he's funny, like, he's like such a fun character to read. And it's like, since I don't even know how long it was, it's been a while now since I've, like, just really not liked him, because like, as like misguided as his wife is about the way she handles it, she is very aware, like we were saying, like, she's very aware of, like, what's at stake here. And he is like, oh, she's just overreacting, like, what a drama queen. And it's like, no, like, literally they could starve. Like, if
he's like, obviously someone is going to marry my girls. That's gonna happen, obviously.
It's like, yes, she goes about it in ways that are not productive, and yes, she can be, like, overbearing and annoying about it, but she is, like, at heart, she is just trying to take care of her family, of her daughters. And she, like, I can't even imagine how infuriating it would be to be married to somebody who's like, what's the big deal? Like, why do we care if we visit Mr. Bingley? And it's like, because our lives could depend on it. Like,
and I think there's some denial there too, because to admit that something needs to be done would mean that, like, he actually has to grapple with the fact that something, like he mentions it, but, like, he would actually have to sit down and look at his part in what happened. Yes, it does. And I think that, like, there's a little bit more nuance in the books as Jane Austen wrote them, just because there's so little of them, obviously, but also, like, she sits down and she goes, yeah, like, this is what's going on. And I think that I just think that not the coverage, but the interpretations of Mrs. Bennet tend to be a little lopsided and all on Lizzie's dad's side, when they're both very flawed characters.
Yes, for sure.
So. Anyway, but yeah, I like classics, and Allie Carter was talking about this when people were asking her about the adaptation of one of her books, because I think it was Heist Society that had gotten optioned, and it'd been optioned with her knowing that if it became a movie, that the characters were going to be in college age instead of high school. And she was like, listen, like, if there isn't, like, you can keep the important things about this story and what makes this story what it is. They're not tied to these characters being in high school, you know? So she's like, that's the important part of the adaptation, is are you bringing something to it, and, like, what are you keeping the spirit of the story? And I think that's a good way to look at adaptations and a good way to look at retellings. Are you keeping the spirit or having an interesting take on an aspect of the original?
Yeah.
So, shall we do another sprint?
Let's do it.
Yay. Oh, and I changed the timer again and didn't get rid of that thing. All right, so we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. All right. I think that is going to end up being the last of our sprints because I'm ready to put a cozy sweater on and go to bed. I probably shouldn't because I just ate dinner and that will trigger my acid reflux, but I'm tired.
Sometimes you gotta sleep, yeah.
Yeah, I might just go veg out in a chair for an hour while I wait for my food to digest.
Also a good move, yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, hey Kay, yay for sprints. Our power was off for a couple of hours, so I need to get a few things done. Thanks for hosting tonight. Sharing some Yuletide cheer with the like button. Thank you for joining. Amal has an hour and 45 minutes left. You've got this, Amal. How does that feel for you?
It was really good. I have, I think, like 7 chapters left, so I can definitely finish this, I think, tomorrow. Also, I don't know, I'm still like bracing myself for the inevitable third act breakup that we're probably still going to get, but they did just have a fight that I actually think was really well done, and it makes a lot of sense. And I'm like, yeah, you guys need to fight about this because you need to talk about this. So that was good.
Throwing you in an arena, whoever comes out alive.
Yeah. So it was really well done, but yeah, it's really good.
Nice. We love to see that. You are welcome, Julie. Thank you for hanging out in the comments. I got food eaten. And I've got a few, like, I'm trying to finish up my list so I can just whoop out all of the secret surprise song o'clock scavenger hunt stuff, because that's been the big thing, is just finding time to film and having all of the prompts done. Because I wanted, like, at the moment, it's like, this is all from April and May, and I like something a little bit wider.
Yeah.
I didn't get done what I was supposed to do, but I did get more of my puzzle done. Thanks for the sprints. You are welcome. Same here. I've done that. I've done that before. I believe, hold on, do I have access to, as of right now, and I don't think I will be on those sprints because I have Dungeons and Dragons tomorrow. But let me pull this up because we do have somebody that is sprinting tomorrow. Yes. Yeah, I will be because this ends well before my Leander will be going at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I may see y'all there, or those of y'all that are not asleep or working. So, but yes, on Leander's channel at 2:00 tomorrow. I will make sure to post that in the chat when we get a chance. Do you have anything on your channel that you would like to plug, Kara?
Good question. I did, and which you were also part of. We just did another big like Goodreads video collab.
I need to go check the Discord.
Yeah. So that was a big thing. Trying to think of anything else. Just getting ready for end of year content because I am determined that I'm not going to get behind this year. We'll see. Yeah, those are the big things I think happening right now. Margaret, you haven't posted the like book spreadsheet, like enter the books for the read, right?
I have for the new idea. I have not yet. That's what I need to do.
Okay, I was just checking that I hadn't like missed the link somewhere.
Wait, hold on. The book spreadsheet for what? For
for like entering your books for the Eras Readathon.
Oh yeah. So if you go into the Discord, so far we've got up to Lover Fearless, up to Reputation, I believe. Lover Fearless, Evermore, yeah, Reputation are in the Discord, so you can enter up to those, and then I'm getting the rest of them out over the next couple of days. I'm just like releasing a couple at a time, so y'all don't get completely bombarded with them. And then I do need to release the surprise song o'clock scavenger hunt thing, but I haven't had time to sit down and figure that one out yet. So
okay, cool. I just wanted to. That makes sense that it's on the Discord, so thank you for that.
Yeah, it's in the Discord for now. Because Twitter might not be there tomorrow.
Like literally, Twitter has been on the verge of death for like a year now. Like we're all just like, what's happening?
Blasted as long. Like, well, I'm not surprised. I'm just like it could have been very easy to tank it, and like I can see how it's being affected by some of the choices that are being made. But at this point, I kind of feel like it might make it to being able to change management.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm kind of thinking would be the best
outcome. A lot of people are like, oh, well, he's made it easier for fascists to be there. I'm like, all of them are easy for fascists to be there, except like Blue Sky and things like that.
That is, yeah, that's true. Like I think there are a lot of things about Twitter that have gotten like substantially worse.
Yes.
But it's not like they're new problems, you know, like even the old Twitter management, like their like community guidelines were a joke. So yeah, it's still not.
You know, I saw that. An indie author wants to trademark solar powers. I was just like, Clark Kent would like a word, ma'am.
Oh
he shoots laser beams from his eyes that are powered by the sun. Like, sit the fuck down. I told her, I was like, you can't copyright a generic idea.
No, you can't.
So, I suspect she has replies from people she does not know muted. Because you can do that, or you used to be able to do that on Twitter. Like there's a setting that you can turn off anybody that you do not know or actively mention. You won't see anything that they reply. Because I know a couple of like journalists that do that.
Yeah.
So, yes, Brittany also has Sprint Miss Sprints tomorrow at 6 p.m. I don't have access to that schedule. I can only tell you the Eras schedule. The other schedules are not mine. But yes, 6 p.m. on Brittany's channel tomorrow. So y'all will have plenty of people to sprint with on Tuesday. So anyways, Kara and Julia are linked in the description box. If you were here at the beginning, you might need to refresh a little bit because I did not add them, or I wasn't sure if Julia was going to be able to make it, so I didn't add her in at the beginning. But thank you guys so much for joining, and have a great rest of your evening, morning, whatever. And I'll see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. There's 2 buttons. Bye.